Hi guys, it's Amy here, and today we're going to be doing my top books of 2016 so far. We are halfway through 2016, so I thought it would be a fun idea to share with you the books that I have enjoyed so far this year. Obviously, by the end of 2016, I will hopefully have a lot more favourites. Maybe some of these will be in my favourites as well, but who knows, you'll have to stick around to the end of the year and see what happens. So today I have a selection of 8 books to show you, all of which I've given 4 or 5 stars to. These are the ones that have stuck with me, even though all of them haven't been 5 stars. They're the ones that I have been thinking about a lot since reading them and keep kind of recommending them to friends and things like that. So definitely check these out if you get the chance. First one I'm not going to talk about too much because I gushed about it a lot, and if you watched my last video you'll know that I could barely even get words out to describe how much I love this book, and it was All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Remarque, I think that's how you say the name. This book was just absolutely completely breathtaking. I honestly I want to just get across to you how phenomenal this book was. This one is historical fiction set during World War I, and it follows a group of 19-year-old boys who are taken straight out of school, drafted into the army and sent to the front line to fight, and it's just a brilliant book. I honestly, I think this may be my favourite book of the year so far. Definitely going to be up there in the top for the year. It's just amazing. If you want to hear more about this one, I will leave the link to my last video down below. It's right at the very end because it was my favourite book of the month and it was just wonderful, so definitely go and check this one out. Book number 2 is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This one follows the story of a young man who gets into kind of an elite college kind of thing in America, and when he gets there he sees this kind of group of other students who are being taught by this one professor, and this one professor is very picky about who he wants to teach, and you have to really get on his good side to be invited into his Greek class, which is what he teaches. And our main character makes it his mission to join this group of Greek students, and he really wants to be part of their clique because they're really strange and slightly outcasted from the rest of the school, and he just becomes obsessed with them. So obviously, as the story would go, he does manage to get into this group of students, he does manage to get taught Greek by this professor, but he also starts learning about these people that he's made friends with, and there's only a small group of them, there are about 4 or 5, and he starts going with them to their country house in the countryside and starts kind of wondering what they're up to because they're kind of hiding things from him and speaking behind his back, and he's trying to work out what it is that they're hiding and what it is that they're up to, and ultimately does he want to find out, because it sounds like maybe they're up to no good and maybe they're in a lot of trouble for something, and it's just a fantastically written novel. Definitely one of the most intense books that I've read this year. One of those kind of subtly intense books that you don't realise how kind of into it that you are until you're like, oh, on the edge of your seat and thinking about it when you're not near the book and stuff, and I was definitely doing that whilst I was sat at work. I was just thinking about it like, oh, what are these students up to, what are they doing? Like, it was just so exciting and a really thrilling book. So if you haven't already, you should definitely check this one out. Next we actually have another World War related book, and it is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. This is a YA novel set during World War II, and it follows a group of young people, all very separate to begin with. They're from different nationalities, Lithuanian, German, Polish, those kind of things, and they all kind of come together to get to this one particular place, this boat that they need to get on to get to safety. I was just blown away by this book, purely because I didn't know the historical facts behind what this story is based on. So it is a historical fiction, but it's based on specific events during World War II. If you don't know, or if you've never heard of, this book is set around the kind of collapse of the ship, the Wilhelm Gustloff, during World War II, which was horrendous, and I didn't know about it until I read this book, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. The biggest maritime disaster to ever happen, bigger than Titanic and things like that. I think around 10,000 people died on this boat, and it's just, it blew me away. It really emotionally connected with me. The only issue I did have with this book was the kind of romantic kind of thing that was made up between 2 of the young characters. I just didn't think it was needed. Like, I think the story was strong enough without that romance added in. Although I didn't really like the romance element of this book, the book as a whole really left an impression on me. Like, for days afterwards I was like telling my friends and getting really upset about the fact that I didn't know about this happening, like about this ship going down, and the fact that in my history lessons and things like that we just didn't learn about those things, and we were very much kind of concentrated on what was happening in England at the time, because that's where I live. I'm from England, and we learned all about the Blitz and people being evacuated to the countryside and things like that, but never did we learn about anything which you know, this I consider to be a big thing that happened during World War II, but obviously maybe not. Maybe there were so many other things that happened that you just can't teach you all of it, and I don't know. But either way, this was a fantastic read, and I would highly recommend you pick it up if you have any interest in historical fiction and things like this. I think it's a really important thing to read, and I think it's very important to read up on things and remember and respect all the people that died during World War II, like on all sides of the fighting. I think it's heartbreaking, and it really, I don't know, I've really been enjoying reading World War related books this year. I don't know what's got into me. So moving on to book number 4, and it is a short story collection. It's called By Light We Knew Our Names by Valente. This was actually my first short story collection that I've ever read, I believe. This ties together 13 stories, and they are all absolutely beautiful. They all have a kind of element of magical realism in there. There's something that's slightly weird or slightly kind of wonderful in the stories, and it was just beautiful. Like the writing style all throughout just made me just want to melt. It was just so wonderful. One thing I really loved about this book was the strong female connection and presence throughout all of the stories. Like, although many of the females in these stories were in positions of fear and doubt, pain, suffering, just in a lot of them they came together and they had something that would keep them strong and kept them going, and it was just really wonderful. Like, I thought it was a really kind of beautiful feminist just thread through all of it that just, it was so subtle yet so poignant. I really loved that. I feel like I need to improve the way I review short stories, because I just don't know how to get across the whole feeling of the book, because there are so many different things happening in here that it's just hard to encompass that all in one little description. But I do believe I have done reviews for most of these books that I'm talking about today on Goodreads and on my blog, so if you want to go and follow me there, then you'll kind of get my most up-to-date thoughts. Book number 5 is Eleanor by Jason Gurley. This is a proof copy, although I do believe the cover does actually look like this. This is a wonderful story, and again has an element of magical realism or just whimsical wonder in it. It's a really beautiful story and beautifully written as well. This one follows 3 generations of women, a grandma, her daughter, and then her daughter's daughter, who is Eleanor. You learn very early on that there's been a lot of tragedy throughout the 3 generations of this family, and it so far has ended with Eleanor. Her grandmother has gone missing. Her mother is an alcoholic due to the fact that something terrible happened to Eleanor's twin sister when they were very young, and this whole novel centres around Eleanor trying to pull together the strands of her family and connect them again, find her sister, to fix it all, and it's just beautiful. Throughout the novel, Eleanor manages to slip into these like dreamlike worlds that her family and friends that are close to her are dreaming about at the time and thinking of, and she manages to go into these places and she's trying to work out what she needs to do to make everything better in her life and to pull her family back together. And it's just such a wonderful concept, and it comes together so perfectly at the end. There wasn't anything that I was kind of left thinking like, oh, well, what happened to that person or whatever. Like, it all comes full circle, and it's just perfectly done. So yes, I would highly recommend this one. Next we have something slightly different. It's a non-fiction and graphic novel type thing. This is Hyperbole and a Half: Unfortunate Situations, Flawed Coping Mechanisms, Mayhem and Other Things That Happened by Allie Brosh. So this is non-fiction. It's Allie Brosh kind of doing a memoir of her life, but with these really funny, like, bad but so bad that they're good drawings and illustrations. Like, they're just hilarious. Like, I can't explain to you how like funny the illustrations make this book, because if I just read the words, I don't think I would have found it anywhere near as funny as they are with the pictures added in as well, because they're just really hilarious. What I really loved about this book was that not only did it focus on hilarious stories from Allie Brosh's childhood and throughout her life and things like that, she also honed in on really sensitive subjects like depression and anxiety and made them approachable and relatable. And you read it thinking, wow, yeah, like, this happens to people and it's really shit, but we can kind of make light of it. Like, we can understand through these hilarious drawings the severity and the kind of awfulness of depression and anxiety, which I suffer with as well and have done for a very long time. But this book just made it, I don't know, like, yes, there are other people that I can connect to out there, and it, you know, if someone can make a book that is hilarious yet also tackles these sensitive subjects, then there's hope for people, I guess. Like, it sounds a bit silly, but this is definitely one you should pick up if you're looking for a laugh, or if you just want to feel like a big warm hug. Like, I love that you can also just kind of go between the stories. Like, you can see kind of on the edge of the book here that it's lots of different colours and each one kind of relates to a different story, so you don't have to just read it from front to back. You can just flick through and find one story that you want to read today and it will make you laugh, and it was just really enjoyable. I really think you should all go and pick it up. So the final two books I have to show you are actually from series, so I don't want to talk too much about them because obviously if you haven't read the series it's going to spoil it for you. So briefly, book number 7 is George R. R. Martin's A Storm of Swords, Blood and Gold. This is the second part of A Storm of Swords and my favourite of the Song of Ice and Fire series so far. So out of all the books so far, this has been my favourite purely because my favourite characters were doing the most exciting things in this book. Like, I loved all of the action that was happening in this book. It was just brilliant. So yes, I would highly recommend you go and watch the TV show, go and read the books, just get on the Game of Thrones train. And finally, the last book I want to talk about is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Live Ship Trader trilogy. One thing about this book that really made me laugh is on the front it says, as addictive as morphine, which is a really strange thing, I think, to put on a book. Essentially, the main bulk of the story is on a ship called the Vivacia. Vivacia is a live ship, which means if a certain amount of generations of a family die aboard a ship, which is a live ship, the ship will come alive. Like, the figurehead on the front of the ship will come alive, which will aid them to sail better, to get places faster, to avoid danger and things like that. The ship kind of feels the people and can speak to them and things like that. One of our main characters is called Althea, and her family are the owners of Vivacia, the live ship. At the beginning of the book, Althea has her ship taken away from her by her sister's husband, and she spends the rest of the book trying to fight and get her ship back because she has such a strong connection to that ship that it's just horrendous that this has happened. There's a whole host of other things happening as well, not just the story of the ship, but there's stuff happening on land and all over the place, so I won't try and explain to you. Definitely pick up Robin Hobb if you get the chance. She is a phenomenal fantasy writer. She writes fantastic characters, she makes you love them, she makes you hate them, so that is why she is on my favourite list so far this year. So there we go, those are 8 books that I have thoroughly enjoyed so far this year, and I really do implore you to go and pick them up if you do get the chance. Please do let me know down below what books you've been enjoying so far this year. I love hearing about people's favourite books of the year because I then want to go and pick them up and read people's favourite books, so let me know what you've been loving. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything I've mentioned today down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and I will see you soon. Bye! All the books that I've read this month have been 3 stars or above, which is really good in my books, so let's get on to it. I'm going to start with my lowest rating first. So my only